the camera caught something nobody was prepared to see. In a room full of China's most celebrated entertainers, surrounded by the blinding lights of one of the most prestigious award ceremonies in the entire Chinese television industry, with hundreds of industry professionals seated in their carefully arranged rows and millions of viewers watching from homes across the country and beyond, the lens found a face that was doing something entirely unexpected, something raw, something unguarded, something that broke through every carefully constructed wall of celebrity composure and revealed, in a single devastating moment, exactly how deep a bond between two human beings can run. Wang Yibo was crying. Not the polite, camera-friendly, single tear rolling down the cheek, kind of crying that celebrities have perfected over decades of award season practice. Not the restrained, dignified emotional acknowledgement that you see from performers who know they are being watched and have learned to modulate their feelings accordingly. Wang Yibo was genuinely, visibly, powerfully unable to hold back the emotions surging through him. And the reason, the extraordinary, shocking, emotionally devastating reason, was that Xiao Zhan had just won Best Actor at the Magnolia Awards 2026. Nobody saw it coming. That is the truth that every observer of Chinese entertainment culture, every follower of the industry, every person who has spent even a fraction of time understanding the landscape of Chinese television, and the performers who define it, will acknowledge when they are being completely honest. The Magnolia Awards, the Magnolia TV Festival Awards, one of China's most authoritative and fiercely competitive celebrations of television achievement, is not an event where surprises happen casually. The ceremony carries decades of institutional weight, the kind of prestige that makes winning it meaningful in a way that transcends individual popularity or fan voting numbers. And the Best Actor category at the 2026 edition was, by every account, one of the most intensely contested in the award's recent history. But when Xiao Zhan's name was announced, when that moment arrived that his supporters had hoped for and his critics had doubted, and the industry had watched for with the particular fascination reserved for someone whose career has traveled such an extraordinary, turbulent, and ultimately triumphant road, what happened in the audience was not just applause. What happened was Wang Yibo, one of China's biggest stars, a man known for his stoic composure, his controlled public persona, his reputation for keeping his emotions firmly locked behind a wall of professional discipline, breaking down completely. What does it mean when a man like Wang Yibo cries in public for another man's victory? This is the question that exploded across every Chinese social media platform within minutes of the moment being captured and shared. The question that generated millions of interactions, that sparked debates touching on friendship, loyalty, masculinity, celebrity culture, and the complicated emotional landscape of two men whose connection has defined and confounded and fascinated the Chinese entertainment world for years. Because this was not just any man crying for any other man's success. This was Wang Yibo, motorcycle racer, brand ambassador, actor, recording artist, possessor of one of the most recognizable faces in contemporary Chinese popular culture, weeping openly for Xiao Zhan, his former co-star, his complicated companion through one of the most intense periods either of them has ever experienced. The man whose trajectory and Wang Yibo's own have been intertwined in the public imagination with a permanence that neither of them chose and neither of them has ever fully escaped. The Magnolia Awards 2026 ceremony was already shaping up to be a landmark event before Xiao Zhan's name was called. The festival, which celebrates achievements in Chinese television production, had a lineup of nominees in its major categories that reflected the extraordinary richness and diversity of Chinese television content in recent years. The industry has evolved dramatically, producing work of increasingly sophisticated quality, attracting investment that has transformed the production standards of Chinese drama and television, and generating the kind of global attention that would have seemed implausible even a decade ago. The Best Actor category in 2026 represented that evolution. A group of nominees, each of whom had delivered work of genuine artistic distinction, each of whom had made a compelling case for recognition through performances that demonstrated the full range of what Chinese television acting has become capable of producing. Xiao Zhan's path to that winner's announcement was one of the most remarkable stories in Chinese entertainment. A story so full of reversals, so marked by both devastating lows and extraordinary highs, that it reads less like a career trajectory and more like the plot of a particularly ambitious drama series. He burst into public consciousness through The Untamed, the 2019 adaptation of the popular fantasy novel, Mo Dao Zhu Shi, that became a cultural phenomenon of staggering proportions, capturing audiences not just in China but across Asia and eventually establishing a global fanbase that surprised everyone who underestimated the international reach of quality Chinese content. In The Untamed, Xiao Zhan played Wei Wuxian alongside Wang Yibo's Lan Wangji, and the chemistry between them, the genuine quality of their performances, and the emotional resonance of the story they told together created something that transcended its origins as a streaming drama and became, for millions of viewers, a defining cultural experience. What came after The Untamed was a period that tested Xiao Zhan in ways that no performance coach, no career manager, no amount of professional preparation could have readied him for. The controversy of early 2020, a fan incident that spiraled into one of the most widely discussed celebrity crises in recent Chinese entertainment history, generating consequences that affected his career in ways that were painful, public, and prolonged, placed him at the center of a storm that would have broken many people. Endorsements were suspended. Public appearances became fraught. The conversation around him shifted from celebration to scrutiny, from admiration to debate, from the simple pleasure of a beloved performer's work to the complicated, charged atmosphere of controversy. For a young man who had built his public persona around warmth, sincerity, and a genuine desire to connect with audiences through the work rather than through manufactured celebrity, it was an experience of singular difficulty. But here is what makes the Magnolia 2026 moment so powerful, so emotionally loaded, so much more than just another award ceremony victory. Xiao Zhan did not disappear. He did not retreat. He did not allow the controversy to define the totality of what he was and what he could do. He worked. He chose projects carefully, deliberately, with an evident understanding that the path back to the kind of recognition the Magnolia Best Actor represented would be paved not by managing public perception, but by producing work that spoke for itself, that demonstrated the full extent of his capability as a performer, that gave audiences and industry professionals alike the evidence they needed to reach their own conclusions. The drama that earned him the 2026 Magnolia recognition. The performance that the judges ultimately decided was the finest television acting of the year, was by every critical account, exactly that kind of evidence. A performance of genuine depth, emotional authenticity, and technical achievement that could not be dismissed, could not be attributed to anything other than genuine talent applied with total commitment to the work. When his name was called, the reaction in the room was electric. The audience, comprised of the people who make Chinese television, who understand from the inside what it takes to produce work of this quality, who are not susceptible to the manipulations of fan voting or online popularity campaigns, because they evaluate their peers with the specific, exacting knowledge of practitioners, responded with the kind of sustained, enthusiastic applause that acknowledges not just a single performance, but an entire journey. And somewhere in that audience, Wang Yibo's composure dissolved. The footage that circulated online in the minutes and hours following the ceremony showed it in devastating clarity. Wang Yibo, seated among the audience, his expression going from the controlled attentiveness that is his default public setting to something that could not be controlled, could not be managed, could not be filtered through the professional discipline that normally defines his public presentation. His eyes filled. His expression broke. The emotion, deep, genuine, impossible to categorize simply as happiness because it was clearly so much more than that, carrying within it layers of memory and shared experience, and perhaps the relief of watching someone you care about receive the recognition that you always believed they deserved, came through completely. He was crying for Xiao Zhan's victory. He was, in that moment, incapable of being anything other than exactly what he was. A man profoundly moved by the success of another man he cares about. The response across Chinese social media was immediate, overwhelming, and unusually for an internet that has learned to be cynical about celebrity emotion, largely genuine in its own emotional response. The hashtags that emerged within minutes of the footage circulating carried within them the specific vocabulary of a fandom that has spent years invested in both of these men, individually and together. The phrase that repeated itself across thousands of posts was a recognition of something that the audience had suspected, but had never seen confirmed so nakedly, so publicly, so undeniably. That whatever the relationship between Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan is, and the internet has theorized about this relationship with extraordinary creativity for years, what is beyond dispute is that it is real. It is deep. It carries weight. And Wang Yibo's tears in that audience proved it in a way that no amount of carefully worded interview responses, no number of managed public appearances, could either confirm or deny. The question that the internet could not stop asking was the one that had been lurking beneath the surface of every discussion about Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan for years. What, exactly, is their connection? The answer is complicated, layered, and resistant to simple categorization. And that resistance is precisely what has sustained the fascination for so long. They met on the set of The Untamed.